Morning show at East Coast now. It's Bloomsday, and events are not only planned in Ireland but around the world as well. This year commemorations mark the 100th anniversary since the publication of James Joyce's Ulysses. Among the events in Joyce's native Dublin today is one of the French ambassador's residence. That's where it's happening to mark the 25th anniversary of the Franco-Irish Research Programme, which funds the exchange of ideas and collaborations between researchers here and in France. And an Arklow couple, Kelly Bryan and Dermot O'Connor, have a podcast about James Joyce called Blooms Barnacles, and I'm sure there is much more to be said about that and its origins, but you're both very welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So why Joyce?
Why not? Ulysses is meant to be all of human experience in one novel in one day, so it's your one-stop shop for all things in modernist stream of consciousness style. Also, it's really funny. People don't realize this because not a lot of folks have read it all the way through. It's very funny, and it's a book that was banned as obscene, and it is delightfully obscene even by today's standards. So,
and how was that determined? Obscene? I mean, there are sexual references. I mean, the last particular
yes
activity, but human life.
Well, I mean, they went to court over it, so. But yeah, there's definitely some adult behavior in it. But I mean, that's part of life too. And Joyce himself believed it was an artist's duty to, through their art, filter through not only the beautiful parts of human existence in the world, but the filthy parts as well, because that is truth, that is nature, and that's who we are as human animals.
And Dermot, your love for Joyce, how did that start?
After Kelly. Yeah, she brought this thing into my life and I followed along. So the way I tell people, like the way our podcast is structured, it's Holmes and Watson. She's Holmes and I'm Watson, and Holmes will give me like a passage to read.
But he wouldn't be Holmes without Watson.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'll try to figure it out, and then she'll tell me, this is what it, sometimes you get it right and sometimes you don't. So that kind of mirrors like the reader at home who's trying to read the book too, because nobody gets it all. Like there's always something you're going to not get.
Right.
Joyce is like 50 steps ahead.
The podcast is based around what, Kelly?
Well, we describe ourselves as a non-academic take on Ulysses, which means I still do all the reading, but I can talk about The Simpsons and Nicolas Cage movies as much as I want to. Like, we really full-throatedly believe that Ulysses is for everyone. I think people mistakenly believe it's just for scholars, and it is for scholars, but it's for ordinary people too, and we hope that we can help people on their journey through Ulysses and just help them understand it better. Yeah. And people email me all the time and tell me that we have help them achieve that. I met a woman from Argentina who I've been emailing with, and she hugged me and thanked me and said that I helped her not only understand Ulysses, but to understand it in English, which is her second language. So I was really warmed my heart. Yeah.
You've been up early this morning, I hear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think I got up at 4 to get up to the Martello Tower.
Well, what were we doing so early today?
Bus from Arklow.
Yeah, but where do we go at 8 o'clock?
The Martello Tower at Sandy Cove. And that's where the book begins. Like the page 1 of the book opens up on the roof of the Martello Tower. And it begins with a blasphemous Eucharist. So it's, it's genuinely blasphemous. Like if you're a devout Catholic, you don't want to be reading it. And so, the whole thing goes from there. Usually what happens with people, like the first passage of the book, which is, kind of readable. Like it's not like a modern, like a Stephen King book. It's tricky, but you can figure it out. You can see exactly what's happening. But the second, people go, this is okay, I can read this book. And then what happens is they hit Proteus, which is when it's Stephen on Sandymount Strand and it's in his head. Right. And you're just in this guy's head. And he's 22 and he's a jerk. And you're just trapped in his head. And it's just this tumble of sense and perceptions and language. And that's the point. A lot of people take the book and they find the nearest bin and they go, that was fun, and they drop it into the bin. So one thing Kelly's done is and thankfully we've covered Proteus now. We've actually read the whole thing line by line, and she's kind of parsed it through. So if anybody does hit this infamous second chapter,
referred.
Okay, we have something that we can fall back on.
And if you do hit the hard bits, just keep going through. Like, don't stop. Because there's always, after you get through that really hard third chapter
was
the one right after it is Leopold Bloom feeding his cat and cooking a kidney for his wife, and
Yes, it's delightful.
it's kind of back to this like really
Yeah.
charming domesticity that's really nice.
You were telling us about the pharmacy on Lincoln Place.
yes.
Tell us more.
I would love to. So Sweeney's Pharmacy on page. So Sweeney's Pharmacy is Lincoln Place in Dublin. If you're a reader of Ulysses, you'll know that on page 70, roughly, Leopold Bloom goes in there, buys a bar of lemon soap from the chemist Sweny, who he describes as an alchemist, and the soap helps him out through the rest of the day. I don't want to spoil too much. But Sweeney's is a real place, as are many of the locations in Dublin. Unfortunately, a lot of the locations have been lost to time and just the changes in the market and everything else. But Sweeney's has kind of held on white knuckle in the city centre of Dublin. It was a dispensing pharmacy. It opened in 1847. It closed in 2009, at which point it was the longest operating business in Dublin, taken over by a group of volunteers who've kind of kept it up as a little pilgrimage site for Joyce fans. And when they took it over in 2009, the family who'd run it for years, they just kept everything in there. So you go in, all the woodwork is original. There's bottles lining all the walls. It does look like an alchemist's lair. And those bottles have been there since, God knows when, and some of them still have like mysterious liquids and tinctures and things in them. There might be a cure for something in one of those, but we're never going to find out. The drawers are still all stuffed with things that were left there from when it was a pharmacy. Even like old prescriptions that like people didn't pick up in like 1903.
Wow! So
and
it's
it's
a passageway into the past.
PJ has seen ghosts in there, hasn't he?
So it's run by PJ Murphy, who, I mean, he's exactly who you want to meet going into a historic pharmacy in Dublin. He wears a bow tie and he wears a white lab coat. And when you come in, he'll sing you a song. And depending on the day, you might get a cup of tea or a little snifter of whiskey. And yeah, like he's part of the whole thing, and he's the person who's kept it all together. Like, but yes, he and some other volunteers have seen a ghost in there.
Great,
as well,
isn't it fantastic about
yeah.
Joyce? So today is the day to enjoy.
Today's the day to enjoy. Yes, it's June 16th. Bloomsday. Bloomsday is the day of Ulysses, Leopold Bloom's Day, which is June 16th, 1904. Most of the book takes place on June 16th. A few of the later chapters in the wee hours of June 17th.
And Blooms and Barnacles are available, or is available?
We are available anywhere that you find podcasts, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and we stream as well on our website, bloomsandbarnacles.com.
Brilliant.
Blooms, A-N-D, barnacles.com.
Between ourselves, I'm dropping into Trieste in September.
Ooh, that
I'm
sounds
telling
fun.
you. Ooh, yeah. So I'll be seeking out all the references.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
magnificent.
an enjoyable Blooms Day, and thanks for dropping in and telling us all about it. And
We love to
you're
be here.
obviously so enthusiastic about
Yeah.
it. It's great it comes over. Thanks very much indeed.
Great.
That is Kelly Bryan and Dermot O'Connor, who live in Arklow, and they're celebrating Blooms Day. They have a podcast about James Joyce called Blooms and Barnacles. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
East Coast FM's Wicked Coast FM.